Lesson number 7 is very straightforward. We're doing the exact same thing, but with camera angle 2. As you can see, once the clip's synchronized, you will no longer see the processing audio pop up. If you click play,
but sort of a triangle of awareness,
you're going to be able to hear that your files now completely are synchronized, but it's important that you don't delete any of the audio, okay? We have one camera angle synchronized, but we have 3 more camera angles, right? So what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead, press C to select my razor tool, or I can simply come and click on the razor tool. And I'm going to cut the end of this video. Now I can select V to get back to my selection tool, or press the selection tool from my tools menu bar. And I'm simply going to drag this, audio file out of the way. Okay. Remember that we recorded a few other podcasts in this video, and I don't want to deal with those. All right. So I'm just going to move that kind of out of the way so that we're working off of a single podcast episode. Now for the next camera angles. Okay. So which camera angle should we do next? It might not matter to you, but it is in the long run if you're going to continue doing this. The next camera angle that you should synchronize, and we can bring this guy, drag him down just so that we know that the bottom layer here, or V1, is going to include everybody. After synchronizing camera angle 1, we're going to move on to inserting the camera angle of the person that talks the most. Okay, now this might not make sense initially, but moving forward after you edit and produce a lot of different podcasts, it's going to actually help your editing workflow if the bottom layer, or V1, we can drag this down here, has the camera angle that is everybody. Okay, so as we're editing these top layers or these other camera angles, we know that when we delete anything above, what we're going to be left with below is everybody. Okay, it's a camera angle that's always going to work no matter what. Now, the second camera angle we want to bring in is camera angle 1. So we can open up our folder, go ahead and locate camera angle 1, and we can open our first file. And it looks like, we can just preview this. His headphones aren't on, for example. This is before the recording. Okay, so we don't need to bring this in. We're going to go ahead and click on this one, and this looks like the first video that actually starts with this podcast. All right, so you're going to go ahead and locate camera angle 1 for you, and you can drag and drop it directly from your project, or of course you can double click on it. It will preview in your source preview monitor, and you can select it from here and simply drag it over your timeline. Again, we don't want any of the audio or video to overlap, so you don't want to drag and release it there. You want to bring it up to the top and just drag and release it anywhere, and then we can bring these levels down. Okay, so I'm going to organize this a little bit better, but it's important that you don't want to overlap and delete any of the video or audio footage, right? Now, again, remember when synchronizing, we're going to go ahead and select a 3 now as well, because when we want to synchronize this camera angle 1 to this camera angle, this wide camera angle, and the audio. All right, so now we can just drag and drop it anywhere. We could put it over here if we want to, or even at the very end. And we want to highlight everything and right click and press synchronize. We want to synchronize selecting the audio and press OK. All right, so as you can see, camera angle 1 synchronized, and it kind of jumped over to the right because we had that clip on V2 so far over to the right. The bottom clips jumped over to it. We can play it to just double check. You always want to play, make sure that the synchronization is correct.
apply it. So when we talk about,
all right, in this case, it sounds great. I'm going to drag these files, drag them over. I'm going to zoom up on this timeline by dragging the bottom cursor towards the beginning of the timeline. And since I have multiple, shots from this podcast, from this same camera angle, I need to synchronize a lot of different files. All right. Now, you might not need to do this. You might just have one camera angle that filmed the entire time, but I've split this up just to show some more examples of how to easily problem solve if you have multiple camera angles that are more and more difficult to synchronize. All right. So Once camera angle 1 is synchronized, before we move on to adding another camera to this synchronization, we want to get all of the camera angle 1 files complete. So I'm going to come back to my cut tool by pressing C, or you can go ahead and drag, over to the razor tool, select that, and hold down Shift. Holding down Shift is going to cut all the layers in, on the timeline, all right? And if we have this little magnet tool, this snap in timeline enabled, we can go ahead, hold down Shift, and just kind of drag it close to the end of that file there, and it's going to snap for you. It's going to snap into place, and I'm just going to click that, all right? So the reason I do this is because if we drag our next file over and we press synchronize, it might not all synchronize together. It might just synchronize 3 and then leave 2 out of the equation. Why? Because what it's doing is it's synchronizing tracks V2 and tracks V1 with A1, 2, and 3. It doesn't account for having multiple tracks on a single layer. So hopefully that makes sense. So in order to continue the synchronization, what I need to do is not select everything, because then these tracks could get mixed up and one of them might not synchronize, but I need to create a new synchronization. All right, so this I already know is synchronized. I chopped it. I'm leaving it there. I'm not going to touch it. I want to continue now synchronizing camera angle 1 with the remaining footage that I have until I've synchronized all of these files and we can move on to the next. So I'm going to do 2 more so that we can follow along and nobody gets lost. All right, so selecting everything, I'm going to go ahead and right click and click on synchronize. Again, we're making sure that audio is selected, and I press OK. All right, beautiful, that's synchronized. So what we can do is go ahead and click C again, hold down Shift, cut all of those layers at the same time, move this over, and go ahead and drag our next camera angle 1 clip on top, making sure that we do not overlay any audio or video files. Once that's there, we can select the entire clip, press synchronize, press OK, and go ahead and wait for this audio to process. All right, that's synced. Last one we'll do together. Press C, hold Shift, cut V, select, and drag. All right, you guys will get better and better at that, get faster and faster. And we're going to go ahead and synchronize this clip. And then I'm going to go ahead, synchronize all camera angle 1, and then I'm going to come back and we'll synchronize camera angle 2 together. All right.